Last Sunday, we were so blessed and honored to have Pastor Eric Deaton visiting us from Heritage of Faith and Jerusalem Ministries in Texas. And in Exodus it says the importance of the Israelites going back and collecting memorial stones that they could set up so they could tell future generations of the faithfulness of their God and the miracles that they'd seen. And for us, we're not going to collect actual stones, but we have collected stories and testimonies from our church family as our memorial stones to show future generations God's goodness last Sunday with Pastor Eric Deaton. There was something that I was really praying for and believing for in my own life, and I really wanted Pastor Eric to be able to pray and to believe in faith with me for that. And then we came up in the time of prayer, and I came to Pastor Eric and I said, Pastor Eric, I'd love you to agree with me in prayer for this. And he came and he said, you know what, as I was praying this morning, God's already shown me. And he just said things the exact things that we were believing for and praying for. And he said, I just really want to pray this over you because the Holy Spirit has already shown this to me in the Spirit. And it was just such an encouraging moment for me and such a confirmation. I truly come that week and said, Lord, this is something that I'm praying for, but I really would love confirmation from you that this is the right thing, that you're in this, that God, that you've got an answer in this. I said, God, please give me a confirmation this Sunday. And when Pastor Eric came and gave that word, it was just such a confirmation and confidence booster in my spirit of what God was doing, and that God did have an answer and he had a way through. So I just want to give God all the praise because that was such a direct answer to prayer, and God using Pastor Eric to speak to us. We're just so grateful.
I had some back problems. I had sciatica problems in my lower back, and I had pins and needles in my leg. Well, it was actually numb, and he prayed for it. And it didn't happen straight away. I went back to reflect on God's promises and believing and standing on what Pastor Eric had prayed. And I started to feel a tingly sensation down my leg. It was kind of like something was unblocking, and the sensation completely left, and the numbness and everything that I'd experienced for months was gone. And I believe that I was completely healed from that moment onwards.
So I'm Kirsty Stocker, Mark Stocker's wife, and I was sharing with Pastor Eric Deaton that we'd been believing for 17 years for a baby, and we finally had one. His name is Samuel, which is our still God, and we were sharing that testimony, and Samuel's now nearly 11, and Pastor Eric looked over at Samuel, and the Lord had put on his heart that he's going to be a preacher, and it will be the third person that's spoken that over him, and it was just really lovely to have that confirmation. And this is Sam, our beautiful boy.
Say hello, Sam.
Hi. Thank you.
Can you say hi, Eric?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Pastor Eric, we wanted to add our voices to everyone else and say thank you so much for your ministry and your love. It's been an honour to get to know you. I think Levi thinks you're the closest thing to Jesus to walk the earth since he was here. He's been talking about you ever since he left. But we're so grateful, not just to have met you and got to know you a little bit, but for the ministry that you gave to our church family and to our family specifically as well. We are so grateful for what you ministered to us. The things you shared were really resonated in our hearts, and you said a lot of things that were, you wouldn't have known, but were words that God had put in our hearts at other times, and were such confirming words. We thank you so much for that. God bless you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay, so this year's been a challenging year, obviously for everybody, and what really touched my heart was when Pastor Eric was preaching was from Psalm 27 about, hope in the Lord and wait for him, and my heart had been, I'd allowed it to become quite discouraged. But it says to hope and expect from the Lord. And just your preaching really touched my heart so much, just to lift my heart up and say, let's get back in this race, keep believing God. And then after the service, you had prayer for us, and you just prayed over me, and you just laughed the whole time. After a few hours, I just received a phone call. The enemy does try to discourage us. And so the next day, my heart was still a little bit heavy, but as I was out delivering some food, in Australia here we've got the kookaburra bird, and when it starts to sing it actually laughs. And this kookaburra just was laughing and laughing, and I knew it was the Lord saying, Sandy, just laugh.
That's amazing.
Laugh at the situation because it is going to change.
Yeah.
And I just really want to say thank you, Pastor Eric. In Australia here, they use the term fair dinkum, and it means you're the real deal, and you are fair dinkum, and just so appreciate your ministry so much.
Pastor Eric, it was such a prophetic time, such an anointed time. He came and he prayed for me, and he spoke some words that were just so specific to what God had said to me in my life. I believe God has called me to be someone who is a witness. God has called me to be an evangelist. God has called me to be someone who can go out into the world and let them know about the goodness of Jesus. And he came and he started speaking these amazing words to me about how no knowledge of any of that. And he comes and starts speaking to me about how I'll be someone who goes to my generation. I'll be a light for God. And he started speaking these words, not just to me, but over me. And that's what I loved about his ministry. It was a prophetic in two senses. It was prophetic in the fact that he spoke of what would happen, and he spoke it out as well. And I believe in what he said, he was bringing it to pass as well. And I really, it was life-changing for me. He was such a confirmation. These things that were God even speaking, I was just unsure about, like, God, is this you? Is it not you? What do I do? And Pastor Eric, in his whole message and his whole ministry, he came together and brought a confirmation and a clarity. Time the devil can come to me and say, oh, that's not what God said. I'll say, hey, no, remember what Pastor Eric said that Sunday. And for me, that was life-changing.
At the end of the meeting, Pastor Eric called people out who wanted prayer, and particularly in the area of healing. And for quite a while now, I've had issues with my lower back where I've been fairly much constantly in pain, and I felt the Lord say to me, I want you to go and be prayed for yourself. So I went and asked Pastor Eric, and he prayed for me. He prayed for my back, laid hands on it, and I really felt the power of God go through me so strongly. In fact, far stronger than I have for a long, long time. And through my entire body, I was struggling to stand just because of the power of God. And it was probably about half an hour later, I suddenly realized that the pain was gone and it wasn't there. And I had been in significant pain at the beginning of the meeting, but it was totally gone. I was totally free. And this is 7 days later, and it hasn't come back.
So those are our virtual memorial stones from last Sunday's meeting, and I would love to just quickly add one of my own. And last Sunday's meeting was such an encouragement to me. The sermon Pastor Eric spoke was such a boost to my faith and exactly what I needed to hear. And Pastor Eric called me out and prayed for me. And the only way I can really describe it is that ever since he prayed for me, I have felt God's presence in my life like I've never felt it before. I just feel this new presence of God within me. And I'm so excited because I feel like it was that line in the sand moment for my life, that my future, my career, my ministry, everything has been impacted because there was a miracle within me which will then work externally. And we just want to say, as a church family, we want to say thank you to Pastor Eric Deaton, to his family. We want to say thank you to Heritage of Faith in Crowley. We want to say thank you to Jerusalem Ministries for sending Pastor Eric to Breakthrough. Our church has been changed. You left Breakthrough differently than when you arrived. And for that, we are so grateful. And we give God all the glory for the miracles that we've seen and the miracles that we are still going to see from last Sunday's meeting. This is only just the beginning, and we are so excited to see the miracles that are still to come from last Sunday's meeting. So thank you.